Yes. Oops.
All right. Then it is my pleasure. Deutsch oder Englisch?
Den Vortrag werde ich auf Englisch halten. Ja.
Then it really is my pleasure to welcome Julia Neithardt today. First, the bad news. Unfortunately, we only have one speaker. The second speaker, Mark Kockelberg, unfortunately, he sent the slides yesterday, but he became ill today, and so he will not show up, unfortunately. And we'll see that we reschedule him in a future date. So today is a shorter version, or if you want to speak 90 minutes, you're welcome to. But Julia Neithardt is a UNESCO co-chair on digital humanism. So what better person to have to talk about the topic? Her expertise is in user modeling and recommender systems, specifically in tourism and media. She did a master's from the University of Vienna in mathematics, and then a PhD at the TU Vienna in 2009 and 2016, respectively. Something to highlight on her background is that she has repeatedly gained recognition as an outstanding reviewer, program committee member, best reviewer nomination, etc. And from me personally, as an academic, that's a very hard achievement. And so, also, if you ever want to get your work to be reviewed, ask her. You might charge for it, but she does give very amazing feedback, apparently. But I don't want to keep you from a wonderful talk. I'm very happy that you're here and you're talking about your view on digital humanism. The floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation and for this very kind introduction. So my topic is recommender systems and a bit of my background and why I started to get interested in digital humanism also. So because this is very much related in my case to my research background. And I just would like, apart from what was already said, Humanism Initiative at TU Wien since it started, so 5 years ago, and I am also doing many other activities at TU Wien, at the faculty, so I'm also in this Center of AI and Machine Learning. And I'm the head of a Christian Doppler lab for recommender systems, and we are now in the 3rd year. And so I think this picture you might have already seen, because this is where was inaugurated together with my colleague Peter Knees as UNESCO chairs on digital humanism at TU Wien. And so I have, because so not only like from this digital humanism initiative at TU Wien, but I have also, as I said, some research experience where I have listed some recent projects where I was involved or where I will be involved. So we were already in the first call for digital humanism of the city of Vienna. I got with 2 colleagues from the University of Vienna and from the Austrian Academy of Sciences, a smaller project where we looked how media, Austrian media, talks about politicians. So we did this sentiment analysis and emotions and tried to track over time how media reports, and we also developed a dashboard that was online, or maybe still is. And then I'm also involved in another project that is now funded by this round of the WWTF call. It's with 2 colleagues from the University University of Vienna, and it's about linguistic diversity, and here how the digitalization impacts linguistic diversity. And you will hear about this talk next week from my colleagues. And also Peter, I talked about the Digital Humanism Initiative, so I talk about something else, and this is about recommender systems. And yes, so this is, again, this Vienna Manifesto on Digital Humanism that we that was the output of a workshop 5 years ago, where also the WWTF and the city of Vienna, together with TU Wien, were organizing this. It was interdisciplinary and very international, and this manifesto was then the output. And for us back then, and this is also my personal history of this topic, so I have been working in recommender systems now since 10 or more years, when I started my PhD at TU Wien. And then there was the time where we had this public discourse starting about the impact of these systems and personalization on elections and democracy. And there was the referendum from Great Britain to leave the European Union. There were the first Trump elections, and there was Cambridge Analytica. You remember this micro-targeting, where they tried to, or where they got data that was kind of collected in a research context about people, their behavior on social media, and also their personality traits, partly assessed through questionnaires, but partly then also inferred through their behavior online, and it was then used for sending out personalized campaign promotions and things like this. And so back then these techniques, also the recommender systems, kind of, it was clear that it's, on the large scale, it has an impact. And of course, this is a bit of a dilemma also, because I've been working on this. We have also been working in the tourism domain many years ago already now, on like personality traits and how this can be used to characterize travel preferences and all this. And then of course you start reflecting on these things, and the question is, should you do this? Should you do this research? And I really think we should, and we especially should do it at the university, because there is a lot of big tech who are very strong in developing and applying these algorithms. And we'll also talk about it a bit later, like on the social media. And also, they have other interests. So they typically have a very strong interest in keeping the users engaged on the platform, to show them ads and to collect data. However, so we at the university, we also have to think why we are doing this research, and I think it's very important to look at this and also to think how it could be different maybe. And so for me, this is also the digital humanism characterization. It's also this from the manifesto, and I really think, so this is how I really see it. So it's about seeing the problems and also analyzing them, but then also it's like from me as a computer scientists or data scientists who is developing these algorithms also. The question is how we could do it differently. And so that we really think, how maybe with another design or with another ecosystem, how these things could be different. And so this is a bit of my background and why I'm very much interested in this digital humanism, and why it is really relevant for my work. And so about my Christian Doppler lab, this is now, we have here, I do not know whether you know this funding scheme, but the Christian Doppler Research Association is a funding association who basically funds labs. These are longer projects, so they run for 7 years, and you do basic research, but you have company partners, and the problems you are working on, they come from the, to some part from problems that the companies experience. So we do not do develop the products for them, but so we get the research problems partly, or we kind of raise them together with the companies. And yeah, I have in my lab, we have 3 different focus areas. So one is the news domain, another one is fashion and lifestyle, I would say, but here the idea is how you could incorporate also social context in real time into the recommendation process, and yeah, how to advance user modeling here. And then also we have Geizhals, so this price comparison platform, where the question is also whether, so they do not have any recommender systems at all currently on their website, but the question is how you, whether it would make sense, or whether there are approaches, maybe in a conversational matter, where you really could then help people find products in areas where there are no experts at all, because currently they have very strongly these product-centered descriptions on their website, where you really have to know what all these filters mean. So it's a very product-centric description, item representation, and the question is how this could be yeah, also maybe translated into a more user and user need-centered approach. And so what we, from the very beginning, had as very high priorities. So this is the question about beyond accuracy. I will talk about it in a moment. Then also fairness, digital humanism, and of course, because the field is changing now, about how LLMs impact this research in this area. And so, I mean, I will not go, of course, into too much details, but it's want to give a bit of a big picture about these topics now. Also, not necessarily about my research or our research, but why is this relevant in the context of digital humanism also. However, I think, yeah, most of you know recommender systems, and those who are not, so you still encounter them everywhere. So if you go on an online platform today, there is really on very many places you are confronted with personalization, so which is also a kind of recommendation. And so you're typically not even aware of it, in what way the information you are encountered is filtered and is targeted for you. And in general, so these recommender systems, they are described or characterized as yeah, software tools and techniques who should suggest items to a user that may or that should be of interest to that user. So we have a specific target user, and the system presents the items in a way that the relevant items for the users are ranked first, or only the relevant are shown. And for this, the system needs an yeah, a representation of the user, a user model, because it's about personalization, so you need to know something about the user, and also, of course, a representation of the items in the system. This is often, yeah, the metadata. And this is typically the case, there should be some historic data about previous user item interaction, previous ratings, previous purchasing, and typically this is used then to train to develop these models and to make these recommendations to the user. And so today really this personalization is very much you find it basically everywhere, and as I said, sometimes it's even surprising for me, because I was at the Recommender Systems conference now in the middle of October, which was in Paris this year, and then typically all the companies are there because they are very much interested to what is going on in academia. So there were 1,000 people, and they also would like always to hire the good students, and so this is why they are there. But then you get some insights into their practices, and maybe we'll talk a bit about it later. Yes, so, and the core techniques, I mean, this is not so much relevant now for the further discussion, but still I'm going to say it briefly. So there are two main approaches how the system works. I mean, now it's of course more sophisticated with deep learning, architecture, and other approaches, but basically the two main ideas are, and this is still the same, is you have this collaborative filtering idea, where the system looks at patterns of interactions between the users of the system and the items. And so if you have enough data and enough patterns, for example, then you can just make recommendations based on what similar users liked. So if you have a target user, and I mean here it's of course a very small example, but you get the idea. If you know this target user likes A and B, and you have similar users who then also like A and B, but then also C or whatsoever, then you can just recommend C also to the target user without any knowledge what the item is about. So you do not need the content of the item, you just look at the collaborative patterns of interaction. And this was very successful actually. So Netflix and Amazon have been using this approach early on, like you see on Amazon. So user or customers who bought this also bought that. This is basically collaborative filtering. On the other hand, we have the content-based approaches here. You use it if you do not have so much user data, so from other users. You can rather take a look on similarities between items. So if you have, I mean here I have just put some colors for item attributes, but if the target user likes an item A with 3 attributes, you can look at books or music or movies that have similar attributes, and then you can just recommend it. So these were the basic approaches, and were quite successful. And typically at the very beginning, also what Netflix did so they announced some prizes with a lot of money, where they kind of gave the task to compete against their internal recommendation algorithm, and then they released a historic data set, and people tried to beat this the accuracy. So how many correct answers could an algorithm produce? And this is very often the issue that these approaches typically recommend items that are similar to those already consumed before. I mean, we saw it with the content-based filtering, of course, it's kind of by definition the items are similar, but also with the collaborative filtering, you get very often kind of items that yeah, there's not a big variation in certain dimensions. And then, yeah, we know that this might not be the problem in certain areas, but if we talk about it in the context of news media, so this was then the issue that started to be reflected on. So if we say, okay, we always get similar news content recommended, we end up in these filter bubbles. I mean, very simply spoken. And yeah, but these dynamics that had some impact. So people started, or researchers already longer ago, then to think about beyond accuracy goals. So the question is if there is even, we know, this list of items that are for sure interesting for the user because it's very similar to what the user already has experienced before and liked before, why not making it a bit more diverse? Or yeah, there are certain measures that are now called beyond accuracy, and the question is always kind of to not present always the same, always very similar things, but try to make it different, because typically you get a list of items and then you can say, okay, it's more diverse. And would it help you? So would it help you if you have a certain opinion on a topic to get exposed to other opinions? This is still not solved or not clear even the effect. But however, so this is something that is now very commonly done, that you really try to make, or that you also assess the algorithms. You would say it's not only one outcome dimension, it's not how accurate can I reproduce certain historic pattern, but the list of results should also be more diverse. And yeah, maybe also there should novelty or serendipity. So serendipity is something everybody likes, but it's very hard to realize because it should be an item that is surprising but still relevant, and it's not even clear how to measure it. But yeah, it's kind of very much discussed. However, still here there are many open issues, like the question, so if I make it very diverse, maybe the system gets less accurate and then the users do not like it. The question is, how do even the users perceive the outcome? And are there still, I mean, long-term patterns? Because these are all things that are still very much under-researched. And yeah, so these are also things that we are working on in the lab. Then another concept that is now very much considered, so in AI, machine learning algorithms in general, but also in recommender systems, so is this concept of fairness. And yeah, so here I do not go too much into the definition, because I also thought that yeah, so these are, because there are some philosophical discussions, and I thought that when Mark is here, you have anyway the philosophical perspective, but this will then follow another time. I mean, not specifically on this topic, but I talk about it from a more pragmatic perspective, I would say. But so the concept of fairness is like the concept of beyond accuracy, now very much discussed. And the idea is that you should ensure that the recommender system has the same quality of results across different groups and users. And so here it starts to begin quite challenging because, as we will see on an example in a moment, we typically, so these recommender systems, you saw it on the picture before, we have the users, we have the system, but so there are even more stakeholders involved. And actually the system, or if it should be fair, it should not only balance the interest of the users, but there are also the content creators and the platform. And there is also society as a stakeholder, as we are seeing about this filter bubble, so it has an impact on a societal level. Then we are talking about recommender systems. So the question is, you want to have personalization. So by definition, the result should not be the same for everyone. However, there are certain strategies where say, okay, it should not be biased. And the issue is also in recommender systems, we have this reinforcement loop because, as I said, the system is learning from historic data. So what you liked in the past, and then it makes you a recommendation. And then you like it again, so then it feels confirmed. So this is a feedback loop, and this is also said to be also an issue for this getting a more and more narrow content and more in a bubble, because the system makes recommendations and get confirmed. Okay, content, so the goal is fair exposure. I will have some examples in a moment, but the challenge is, and now this is also proven, so fairness is of course very context specific and varies by domain and varies very much about the specific application case. And then as I said, so there is this trade-off or this balance between fairness and personalization. And here's an example about this multi-stakeholder perspective. And of course, we have the platform where you can say, okay, the platform anyway makes the profit, but it's really far more than that, because if you think on, I do not know, this music streaming platform, you have the content providers who are the musicians and bands who share or whose songs and whose music is listed there. And then it's really the question of, do you get the visibility? Is your content even shown? Do you even have the chance to be seen by the audience? And you very often have a popularity bias, and a well-established artists are shown more likely. So there are really many fairness issues involved also from this perspective, for example. The same is with authors of books. If you are a new author, you have it much harder to get shown, and typically these platforms they are not. This is not transparent at all, so you do not know why you are not shown. Maybe now that the regulation also helps the content providers currently, but it was the situation. So there is an Austrian journalist who talked to me about it, and she's also the author of crime novels, and she told me that so her first book she wanted to promote it on Facebook, but it was not shown to anybody, and she has the. She thinks it was because of the title of the book, because it was very violent, because it was a crime novel, but she does not know, and there is nobody you can call, and there is, she was just kind of in this situation. And then for her second book, she adapted the title. And then you see these platforms kind of impact or determine the titles of books of writers. So I mean, this is a very huge influence, which is kind of should make her think. But anyway, so this fairness is a multi stakeholder issue, and you have many more fairness constraints. And for recommender systems, so here are typically different aspects of fairness distinguished. You often look at the individual fairness or the group fairness. I mean, I do not have to go through all of them, but so the idea is that similar individuals should have similar experiences. so if you say, okay, two users with similar preferences should receive similar recommendations on a platform. Or the group fairness, and this is also very relevant. So if you look, for example, at demographic groups, then the idea is that the system should have the same quality of results for these different groups. Yeah, for example, users across different age groups should receive comparable quality and job recommendation without there any bias for each example, for example, age, but also others. And here very often, and this comes from discussions already before AI and recommender systems, there are these sensitive attributes. We'll see, okay, if you look at characteristics like gender, or race, then this should not impact it should not be biased based on these characteristics. And of course, there are now many methods who would help to test whether your algorithm works in this way, or whether there is still this bias involved. And so these are just a few more concepts, so I will not go into detail here. But you see these are different ways. So there is not one fairness concept that you can just apply and then test how your algorithm performs. And this is in general not only for recommender systems. This is in general an issue for this fairness in artificial intelligence and machine learning, because this is very much context dependent and depends very much on the use case. Yes, so for the fairness design principles, I just here put these blue boxes. This is what was in the recommender system handbooks discussed, but the discussion goes much beyond it. And the problem that is here a bit, and this is the same with this beyond the currency that I mentioned before. You have now certain measurements like diversity, and then you just download a toolbox, and then you check, okay, this fulfills this diversity criteria, so check. And the same is here often what is now done more and more with fairness, because you have some fairness libraries, and then you just download them, and then it's many different aspects to consider, but still, so it's somehow implemented, and so the mindset is too often, in my opinion, also that it's just a tool or some metrics that can be checked. However, from the practice is clear that here a much broader perspective is required, and of course also a multi-stakeholder perspective. This is relates to what I was saying before. But here is a paper which is quite interesting and which is more already from AI and ethics field, where they really try to make suggestions to help to make this algorithmic design based on criteria, and they also introduce some indicators that would like to facilitate a broader view on this topic. This is also very abstract what I'm saying now, but the issue really is, so this fairness, everybody talks about it, but it's not something that is a straightforward thing. So it really is strongly related to the use case, and right. So I was mentioning this recommender system conference beforehand. And there is still, for example, the situation that at the main conference, you still have these algorithmic papers that try to kind of account for accuracy, and there are more and more better, more best performing algorithms introduced, and then you have some discussion about diversity or fairness or user studies, but basically it's still the same picture. And then you have workshops where these things are discussed. But to these workshops, the big companies, they do not attend there. And so it's still a niche discussion, because if I'm telling it in a way, maybe you would think, okay, this is obvious. These are all things that should be considered, but in practice, this is definitely not yet the case. So this is why, why there are still so little work really considering these aspects. And this is very much also interdisciplinary work, of course, and we really need more and more, I do not know, funding calls and more collaborations that look at these things, because this is really, this is still, although it's in academia, it's reflected on a lot, but it's in practice, it's very much under researched or implemented or so. And yes, about another important topic, which is kind of impacting the field in a tremendous way, of course, you can imagine. It's the kind of the emerging situation with ChatGPT and large language models. And of course, it also changes here quite some things. Because as you can imagine, I mean, I do not, I think, explain what it is, because I guess you know it, and I'm sure that most of you have already tried this to chat with these systems, and so they are very good in having these conversations in a natural way. And before that, these conversational approaches in recommender systems have already been popular, but they were suffering from, that the conversations did not, I mean, you know, older chatbots also, if you assessed maybe some online websites, and there were some chatbots discussing with the customers, it was not really a conversation with a good flow, but this is changing, and that it turns out that these large language models in certain situations from kind of the out of the box have good impact on recommender systems. For example, I told you before, the techniques rely on historic data, but very often the user comes to a platform and there is no historic data available about the user, and so this is a cold start problem. And so these large language models are very good in these situations. Then they have this type of global knowledge, where they can translate from one context to the other, and then can bring in suggestions in a very good and reasonable way. However, so of course there is this hallucination, so the risk of generating inaccurate or irrelevant answers. We also have this bias and manipulation, so we're talking about bias beforehand, and the fairness or unfairness of systems, and whether they are biased to certain stereotypes or groups. And here with the large language models, this is, of course, you do not even know it. So it's much more intransparent. But so first studies show that these systems are, of course, strongly biased. For example, UNESCO, so they published a report not too long ago where they looked at stereotypes, so gender-related stereotypes of ChatGPT and other models, and it's just a disaster, yeah. And of course, so this is all in these systems. There. So this is very dangerous, and also the misinformation risk. I mean, these are only some of the issues, and so typically, or what is also done at the beginning or in many approaches is to really see kind of this as a black box, and you can ask this ChatGPT or others to provide some recommendations in different conversational, or you can also ask them for explanation, which are they very good in, of course. Whether the explanations are correct, I mean, this is another issue, but this is in general an issue. However, what we are doing in the lab is also to show it a bit. So we were starting already last year, or when this became a bit more prevalent, to look a bit more differentiated in this whole ecosystem, or in this whole recommendation process, because of course it's not just the chat interface and you send things to the chat and then you get things back from the black box. But the question is indeed, and also I said we have a lot of industry partners who are of course very much interested in this technology. So the question is really in which steps of this whole process the capabilities and of these large language models can be beneficial, for example. And there are ways to combine the language models with local databases, that then help also to address certain issues. For example, to reduce hallucination, and to provide a better context, also privacy reasons, and many others. But I'm just saying, so the question is not whether this technology should be avoided or not, but as a matter of fact, it's widely used already, and we have to ask, when can it be used in a good way? As I said, this conversational approaches to elicit preferences, the systems are very helpful. Also in organizing data, in kind of enhance input or restructure things or extract content. So we identified here different aspects where it's helpful and good. And so this is where we're trying to work there. And here we also have some results. And here this is also quite interesting. I mean, you can be creative, and we have students who do here also a lot. And here you do not have to be a big tech company or OpenAI to do interesting work in this regard. It's also really to better characterize what is needed and then what can be done, and of course also then talk to the users and to user studies. And even there are a lot of improvements also now to make the results more reliable. But I'm just saying, so these are things that we are working on. But of course, I mean, still there is this many. It's of course not a solution just to connect it to local knowledge. A last thing that I would like to mention is what we are doing also is really the question, and this is from the digital humanism. So if we know that we have Cambridge Analytica and other issues on social media where users should be pushed somewhere and manipulated. The question is, so can these recommender systems also have a more another role where you really support the users, where you help them in a situation of information overload, because we are also, when we are talking about users, so it's also, yeah, we are thinking about ourselves, maybe who are anyway have a lot of experience in dealing with these systems, but there are also other user groups, like people who are older or have language barriers, or somehow, or as I said with the Geizhals example, I mean, there is also, you are not expert in all the hardware, or even, I mean, maybe you need a washing machine, but you also do not know what is now the technical standard and those things. And the question is, could the system really help in these situations? And yeah, here we are also very much interested in this question. And what we discovered, or what is also the case, I mean, also not only the personality traits, but there is a bit this tendency to look at psychology-informed recommender systems. However, so as we are working in an interdisciplinary lab, and this is really something where I say this is a huge benefit from this interdisciplinary work, because we kind of discovered, I mean, this was a coincidence, that the psychological models that are typically used in this computer science and this context are completely outdated, or not all of them, but some of them. And psychology, they of course, yeah, have newer approaches, newer methods, and which is not accounted for in many computational systems, because there, so older models from marketing some decades ago are still very popular. Why? Because you can, yeah, implement them already in a straightforward way, and they have proven to be to some extent useful. But still, so in order to move forward also here, it's really required to have an interdisciplinary yeah, conversation, and also to try to move forward together. So one example is this emotional characterization, where many computer science approaches, very simple models are still used, and where we now also try, I mean, together with my colleague, but also with the master student, now yeah, to also making use of new computational approaches that can account for more context, also here to make a step forward. But, and of course, we are not the only ones who are seeing this, but there are also now we are realizing, I mean, yeah, this is quite an interesting field, and it's very relevant, because if you, I mean, think of these facial recognitions, this system that are applied everywhere, and if you have a very simplistic view on emotions, I mean, this impacts everybody on the public spaces who are kind of recorded by one of these cameras. Yeah, and also, yeah, we are trying also to look a bit into the well-being and how this could be captured. And also here it turned out that there is not the right measurements yet. So here in this way, many things are still open and to do. So I'm talking a bit longer because, yeah, so because I'm the only talk today, so yeah, have this other example, but I do not have to go too much into detail. It depends with the time. Should I? Okay, I will be a bit more concise, but I think this is a good example that I found some time ago. So the question is really, does this have an impact on society, and does it really is it really a problem? And so here well, actually my colleague and me, we found this collaborative review online where some actually social scientists, so they make a collaborative review and have a Google Doc where people can submit things, and they collect empirical studies that social media, and the algorithms and the personalization has an impact on different aspects or not. And so what they are saying, this is not a stringent meta review, and this is not, so I mean, they are a bit biased because they already have an idea how, or an opinion, a strong opinion on this, but still they try to make it very transparent and to try to organize it along these 7 questions. And what is really shocking is that out of the study they collect, so the basic conclusion is really that there are very concerning developments, and there is enough evidence to see this, you know. And so the 7 questions they are looking at, so is, for example, the first one, does social media make people more angry or effectively polarized? And so out of the studies, I mean, how does it look like? Here they have, I do not know, 20 plus, almost 30 studies, and some of them come to the conclusion that yes, the answer is yes. Others say, well, there are no clear results. Others say no. But here, the majority of the studies they collect really say yes. So there is evidence to support this question. Then, other questions are, does social media create echo chambers? Also here, it's quite a clear evidence that there is a problematic impact of this. The other question is, does social media amplify emotional, inflammatory, or false posts? Also here they come to the conclusion that there is evidence for the question, does social media increase the probability of violence? The results are more mixed, because they said there was some effort by YouTube in 2019 where they changed the algorithm, and since then it's better, so to say. But so this is why this discussion and this trying to look into these things, of course, have also maybe good consequences, that the platforms start to reconsider and redo things. But so the other 3 questions are, does social media enable foreign governments to increase political dysfunction in the United States and other democracies? Also here they found some evidence. Of course, this is a bit US focused, this they acknowledge. And the others are, does social media decrease trust? Also a bit mixed. And does social media strengthen populist movements? Very interesting. So these researchers also have other collaborative reviews, as I realized, also about the impact. So these are more the societal consequences, but there is also one of these where they collect studies about the impact of social media on mental health, which we all know is also very, very concerning, and where they try to provide some systematic discussion about it. But this is just to underline a bit the urgency of this topic, and why initiatives and the idea of digital humanism is really very much relevant, and the claim that this has a societal and even democracy threatening impact is not just an academic discourse, but there is enough evidence there. what we are doing ourselves, and this is then actually my last slide, what is digital humanism and recommender systems. So we also try to be here more concrete, also not to only analyze the problems, but so here we had a paper last year where we really tried to identify several research directions where we show, okay, here effort should be put to also make these systems on various dimensions, more so better. So it's not only about this fairness and diversity, but it's really the question also. Are there also ideas or approaches where not the data collects not the platform collects all the data, but it's more distributed, for example. And but I will not go into detail here. But yes, so this was my conclusion. Basically, this is my conclusion, this was my presentation. So my conclusion is really, so although this is widely discussed, these issues like diversity and fairness, as I said, it should be more than just a software library that is downloaded and where some checkboxes are then made, but this should be really we should really try to put these things into practice. This is an interdisciplinary approach, and this is also why it's so important that we have these funding calls that support interdisciplinary work. So as I said, the issues with the simplistic user models and the outdated concepts. So also here there is a lot we can do and what we try. And I think we need to, now we have the US elections again. Let's see then what in the end these dynamics have an impact. But in general, so there is proof enough, and we should really try to foster the public discourse and also see how it will continue with the regulations and these things. But it's what I'm saying. So it's a political issue. It's more than a technical one, and so hopefully we will succeed. So thank you. This is my team, and that's it from my side.
Thank you very much for a lovely talk. And there's plenty of time for questions. Anybody would like to start? Yes.
I'll start while everybody is thinking. Thank you so much, Julia. I have so many questions for you, but we can talk about many of them when we talk next anyway about research. But I wanted to ask one question about your work where you were talking about supportive personalization. Because, and you were talking about that there's a difference between helping and influencing people. But if I may just be provocative, what's the difference? Is this a difference of intention or a difference in outcome? Because let's say I want to help somebody across the street and I help them go over. I've influenced them to go over the street, so to say. You know what I mean? So it sounds a bit like a semantic question rather than an actual question of how personalization actually happens. You know what I mean? What if there's personalization, yes or no, or to what extent it occurs? You know what I mean? Could you explain a little bit more what you mean by supportive personalization?
So if I understood correctly, the question was whether I say it's more about helping the user and not manipulating them, right?
Manipulation is also just another word. Manipulation is just an evil word for influence. It's the same thing, but the intent is different.
The intent is different, yes.
So is it more about having, being open in creating such a system and being open what you're doing to people, and that is actually making things better? Or is the the process different for supportive personalization or recommendations rather than manipulative ones?
I think both is different, you know, for the intent, of course, also because there is a lot of evidence that it's also already the mindset that you want to push the user somewhere. Like, I mean, I will also mention it now because we have really the good situation that we are working together with Geizhals who really do not have this mindset because, you know, they are a comparison platform and they are very much interested in it. Also how you could make a system that is just, yeah, helps the user to be more, that they find better what they would like to, but they do not want to push somebody because first they are interested in a long-term relationship and second, they really want to be a transparent platform. So, and they have a different mindset already, you know. But I also think it's not only the intent, because also the things you would do are different, because now the systems, how they are designed is just to make people stay longer, interact more. So you set other priorities, I would say. If you design it different, you would also make it more accessible, maybe to people who, who are not 25 and, or even young people who are anyway always have connection to the web, you know, can read the small fonts. There are a lot of examples where the technology as such is not accessible to people, and you could also be more explain more things, make it more transparent, the whole process, and then I think it's then also a different way of developing it. So I think it's this manipulating, this pushing somebody, is also hiding things, and this also it's the objective is a different thing. What you optimize for, you might want to optimize for different things. So this is also in the very core of the system then different. It's also a difference. You have a different objective function if you go for more diversity than for accuracy. So already have the difference here. Yeah. And if you would take into consideration also more the needs of, let me say, underrepresented content providers, it's also a different objective function. So, but I think it makes a difference. Yes.
Thanks, Julia. I would like to come back to your point of the underlying psychological models. Mm-hmm. And I was reminded to my reading of the book by Shoshana Zuboff, where she devotes a 100-page chapter on Skinner and behavioralism. And she says the platforms and the informatics guys are totally obsessed with behavioralism, that it's all about sending an impulse and getting a reaction, and human nature is not more than rat nature. So how far could you go from there to a better or more complete picture what human nature and how it is and how to deal with humans?
I mean, this is a very interesting aspect that you raise, and you know that we have with Irina Nalis as a collaborator, so we have a very interesting perspective that she's bringing into this that we are lucky enough to have. But in general, I think not only us, but there are parts of the community are really going away from this. As you described it, in this simplistic way of human reaction, because it also turned out that like there was very long the idea to collect as much data as possible, that you try to infer personality traits. So, you know, if they click there, then you would say this person is more neurotic because they had some models who could see this. There were some correlations, and this is now the ideal view would be to see how little data you need to still make maybe helpful predictions or suggestions. And so I think the mindset is also here, fortunately, changing. And the concerning thing a bit is also that really user studies do exist very few. So actually how the people perceive it, and this is in the recommender system. I saw somewhere a slide where it was characterized as also a very subjective form of AI, because it very much depends how the users perceive it, and in the end they need to say this was helpful or this was so there is much not enough work who really talks to the people, but I think now in general we are going away from this view of good recommendations that you really need to know everything. But I think also the platforms are now collecting. I mean, with the personality traits, fortunately, this nobody would admit anymore. But I think it's also not required. Yeah.
Anybody else? If not, then I wouldn't mind asking a question. So you're an expert in recommender systems, and your website at least states for media and for tourism. And we talked a lot about media, social media, and I found it really interesting, these 7 questions and the statements, you know, what negative consequences there are. Is there any of that, can that be transferred to recommendations in tourism? Mm-hmm. You know, what negative consequences do recommender systems have for tourism? Yeah.
Yes, very good question, interesting. So because I was not talking so much about tourism now is, because I did it previously, some projects, but I'm starting now again. And actually, what is now a bit in tourism more and more an issue is the sustainability also. I mean, also the question, should you recommend these places that are anyway overcrowded? And so here, I was also at the conference now, but there are some approaches from our colleagues in Bolzano and TU Munich, I know some, they really try to promote for so more this more sustainable, so this responsible recommendations in the sense of sustainability. And but also, so this is one answer, and the other one is that we are currently developing a tour recommender system in Vienna, so walking tours together with a startup. And here we also look at this beyond accuracy, like diversity and also maybe surprising points of interest. So yes, but of course it's, I mean, then a different context. So I do not know whether we would talk about maybe also filter bubbles in a way, but yeah, maybe the restaurants or these things, you could also be creative there and try to be here more fairer also, or more beyond the accuracy. But yes, these are also topics there, but of course it's a different context.
Thanks. What about other questions? I would have one more if that's okay. And since I'm the moderator, I guess it is. What is the conclusion in the sense that so you're saying that the inherent driving force in recommender systems is they want to make the individual happy on some levels. I want to find something that makes me happy in whatever scenario. It has lots of negative consequences. Is the consequence now an author? Like in a way, what you said, Sophie, that should we now teach people how to behave properly? I'm particularly exaggerating, of course. Should we prohibit them? Should we, are they bad for us? And so let's stop. Otherwise, our democracy will falter.
I think I mean, if you're for children, there should be things prohibited. Yes, absolutely. Like on this platform, I think it's really dangerous if certain groups use this system. I mean, there's enough evidence for this. In general, I mean, there's always this discussion, as you said, either prohibited or maybe nudging people. Maybe you could also say, okay, they should have a healthy behavior, and so the system can recommend a more healthy lifestyle. I mean, this is also of course disputed how much, I mean, system should do this anyway. But what I would say is with this, what makes you happy? So, for example, if you look at news, and here whether we should show diverse news recommendations, this is the other problem, that actually long-term effects, like from the individual perception, are also not really studied, and it's not the question. So when should you ask? If you look once and then you would ask after 1 week. I mean, I think you know this as a social scientist, maybe these discussions maybe even better, but as a matter of fact, there are no long-term studies. You know, this is completely under-researched as well, and the question is also, we had it, I mean, I know it, we were at this workshop at Seattle two years ago, and this also, where it was about COVID, you know, and there were a lot of new articles, and, you know, people were reading a lot the news because they wanted to know about, what is happening again and how bad is it. And the question is, in this situation, should you show them by a diverse recommendation if they are anyway interested in the COVID topic or not? And somebody asked this and nobody had an answer, really, you know. But when I'm talking to my colleague who is a psychologist, she would say, yes, of course you should show diverse recommendations, because you should also show that there is something else. And then at one point, if you only have this bad news, you avoid news reading at all or something like this. So, but this is all, I do not know, because we do not have enough studies, and we also did not have the chance to do these studies yet, but hopefully we will be able to do more long-term studies. And this is the good thing also about the Christian Doppler Lab, because it's for 7 years, so maybe I can answer it at one point later.
Curious, I'm looking forward to it. Last chance, any more questions? Because if not, then let's thank Julia one more time. Thank you.
Thank you.
And like I said, that's it for today, because the second speaker is sick, unfortunately. Thanks for your attention. See you next week.